The man on my porch wouldn't leave. He'd handed me a small brown package, and instead of walking back to his truck like every delivery driver I'd ever seen, he'd planted himself on my welcome mat with sweat running down his temples. It was 40 degrees outside. He shouldn't have been sweating. "Take it inside," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Don't open it. Just take it inside and lock the door." His name tag said Ruben. He was maybe 40, heavy-set, wearing the standard brown uniform of the delivery company I'd been ordering from for years. I'd signed for hundreds of packages in my life. Not once had a driver ever stayed. I held the package against my chest and tried to laugh, but it came out wrong. "Are you serious right now? What is this? Some kind of joke?" He didn't answer. He looked past me, into my house, scanning the hallway behind my shoulder. Then he looked at his watch. His hands were shaking. 3 minutes, he said. "You'll understand in 3 minutes. Please just go inside and lock the door." That word, please, did something to me. Delivery drivers don't beg. They drop boxes and run to their next stop. Whatever was happening, it was real to him, and that made it real to me. I stepped back into my entryway. He didn't move. He stood on my porch with his clipboard pressed against his stomach like a shield, watching the street. "Lock it," he said. I locked it. If you want to know what was inside that package, and how a stranger in a brown uniform ended up saving my life that morning, do me a favor right now and hit subscribe. Drop your city in the comments too. I want to see how far this story travels, because what happened next is the reason I no longer live in that house, and the reason I check my locks 4 times every single night. My name is Marin Holloway. I'm 28 years old. I work from home as a freelance bookkeeper for small businesses, mostly restaurants and a couple of dental offices. I rented a small 2-bedroom house on a quiet street in a town just outside Asheville, North Carolina. The kind of street where everyone waves at each other, where kids ride bikes until the streetlights come on, where nothing bad ever happens. I'd lived there for almost a year. I knew my neighbors by their first names. I knew the mail carrier, the woman who walked her 3 terriers every morning, the retired man across the street who watered his lawn at exactly 6 a.m. every day, even when it rained. It was a place where I felt safe enough to leave my windows open at night. My life wasn't exciting. I worked. I read paperback mysteries from the used bookstore downtown. I called my mom on Sundays. I had 2 close friends, Devi and Carla, who I met for brunch every other weekend. I'd been single for almost 2 years after a relationship that ended quietly, the way most of my relationships ended. I wasn't lonely. I was just settled. The package arrived on a Tuesday morning in October. I remember because I'd just made my 2nd cup of coffee and was about to start invoicing one of my restaurant clients. The doorbell rang at 9:04 a.m. I checked the time on my laptop because I always logged my work hours, and any interruption got noted. I wasn't expecting anything. I hadn't ordered anything in weeks, but that wasn't unusual. People sometimes sent me thank you gifts after I cleaned up their books, or my mom would mail me dried lavender from her garden, or one of my college friends would send a birthday present 3 months late. When I opened the door and saw Ruben standing there, the first thing I noticed was his face. Not the package, his face. He looked like a man who had just gotten very bad news. "Marin Holloway?" he asked. "That's me." He held out the package, but he didn't let go of it when I reached for it. There was a half second where we were both holding it, and his eyes locked onto mine. "Ma'am," he said quietly, "I need you to listen to me very carefully." That was when I knew something was wrong. He told me to take it inside. He told me not to open it. He told me to wait 3 minutes, and then he stood on my porch like a man guarding a door against something he couldn't see. I walked into my living room with the package still pressed against my chest. The house felt different already. The morning sun coming through the front window looked too bright. The coffee on my kitchen counter looked too still. I set the package on my coffee table and stared at it. It was light, maybe half a pound. The corners were perfect, the tape applied with the kind of precision that suggested someone careful had wrapped it. There was no shipping label from any company I recognized. Just a printed sticker with my name and address. No barcode, no tracking number, no sender. I checked my phone. 9:05. 2 minutes. I sat down on my couch and tried to think rationally. Maybe Ruben was having a mental health episode. Maybe he was new and had been pranked by his coworkers. Maybe there was a bee inside the box and he was allergic and didn't want to be near it when I opened it. The explanations my brain produced got more ridiculous as the seconds ticked by. But none of them explained the look on his face. None of them explained why a stranger would risk his job to stand on a customer's porch and make her wait. At 9:06, my phone buzzed on the coffee table. I jumped. It was a text from Devi, asking if I wanted to grab dinner that weekend. I stared at the screen. Such a normal message. Such a normal Tuesday morning. I didn't respond. I kept watching the package. At 9:07, my phone rang. The number on the screen was one I didn't recognize. Local area code. I almost let it go to voicemail, but something made me answer. Hello? Marin, a man's voice. Calm. Familiar in a way I couldn't place. Did you get the package? I felt the room tilt. I gripped the edge of the couch. Who is this? Did you open it yet? Who is this? There was a long pause. I could hear him breathing. I could hear something else too, something behind him, a soft mechanical hum, like an engine idling. You should open it, he said. I want to see your face when you do. The line went dead. I sat there frozen, the phone still pressed to my ear, the dial tone humming. My mouth was dry, my fingers had gone cold. I want to see your face when you do. I stood up so fast I knocked my coffee mug off the side table. It hit the floor and shattered. I didn't even look at it. I walked to the front door and pulled it open. Ruben was still there. He hadn't moved, but now he was holding his phone too, and his face had gone the color of old paper. Ma'am, he said, get back inside. Don't go near the windows. I already called them. They're on their way. Called who? Just get back inside. What's in the box? He looked at me, and for the first time I saw something other than fear in his eyes. I saw guilt. Ma'am, he said. There's a camera in it, a small one. It was supposed to activate the second you opened it. I took a step back. My hand was still on the doorknob. There's also a tracker, he said. And something else. I don't know what it does. I don't want to know. But I've been doing this route for 6 years, and I've never seen a package like this one. And the man who paid to have it delivered, he was waiting for me at the depot this morning. He gave me an extra $200 to make sure you opened it the second I handed it to you. He said he wanted to see your face. The words from the phone call came back. I want to see your face when you do. He's watching you right now, Ruben said. Or he's about to be. That's why I told you to take it inside. As long as that box is closed, the camera doesn't work. I let go of the doorknob. Who is he? I whispered. Ruben swallowed hard. I don't know his name, but I know what he looks like. And I think you know him too. I'd like to stop here for a moment and tell you something. If you've ever felt like someone was watching you and brushed it off, please don't ever do that again. The instincts we ignore are the ones our bodies developed over thousands of years, specifically to keep us alive. If something feels wrong, it usually is. Make sure you're subscribed if you want to hear the rest of what happened, because the next part is when I realized that the past I thought I'd left behind had been planning this moment for almost a year. I let Ruben come inside. I know how that sounds. A woman alone, opening her door to a stranger she'd just met, letting him into her house. But I didn't have a choice. The only person in the world who knew what was happening to me was standing on my porch, and I needed him to keep talking. I sat him down at my kitchen table. I made him a cup of tea because my hands needed something to do. He didn't drink it. He kept looking at the front door like he expected it to open on its own. Tell me everything, I said. From the beginning. Start with this morning. He took a breath. I get to the depot at 5 every morning, he said. I'm always one of the first ones in. Today there was a man waiting in the parking lot. White guy, maybe 35. Dark hair, beard, baseball cap. He was sitting in a gray sedan. When I parked, he got out and walked over to me. He had the package with him. He just walked up to you? He knew my name. He knew I was the driver for your route. He'd done his homework. I felt sick. He told me he had a present for his ex-girlfriend. Said she'd left him a few months ago and he wanted to surprise her. Said he wanted to do something nice. And he wanted to make sure the timing was right, that I delivered it before 9 in the morning, because she always had her coffee then. and he wanted me to make sure she opened it the second she got it. Ruben's hands were flat on the table. He was looking at them, not at me. He gave me $200 cash, he said. He said it was a tip for going the extra mile. I'd never taken anything like that before, but $200 is $200. And he seemed normal. He smiled, he laughed. He said his ex-girlfriend was going to love it. What changed? Ruben finally looked up. After he handed me the package, he got back in his car. He sat there for a minute, watching me. Then he pulled out his phone and made a call. I was loading the truck and I could hear him through the open window. He said, "Today. It's happening today." And then he laughed. The laugh wasn't right, ma'am. It wasn't a happy laugh. It was the laugh of a man who'd been waiting a long time for something. I knew that laugh. I didn't even need to hear it. I knew exactly who he was talking about. "His name is Tobin Reese," I said. Ruben's eyes widened slightly. "You do know him. He was my boyfriend for 2 years. We broke up 11 months ago. I moved here to get away from him." I hadn't said his name out loud in almost a year. Saying it now felt like pulling a splinter out of my chest. The wound wasn't fresh anymore, but the splinter had been buried deep, and pulling it out hurt in a way I didn't expect. Tobin and I had met at a friend's birthday party in Charlotte. He was charming in the way that some men are charming, the way that makes you feel like you're the only person in the room. He worked as a regional sales manager for a medical equipment company. He owned his own house. He had a golden retriever named Bishop. He brought flowers on the third date. He met my mother and made her laugh. The first time he scared me was about 6 months in. I'd gone out for drinks with Devi and Carla without telling him in advance. When I got home, he was sitting in my apartment, in the dark, on my couch. He'd let himself in with the spare key I'd given him for emergencies. He didn't yell. He didn't even seem angry. He just asked me, very calmly, why I hadn't told him where I was going. I told myself it was sweet. He was worried. He cared. The second time was when he went through my phone while I was in the shower and read every text message I'd sent in the past 3 months. He confronted me about a conversation I'd had with my coworker, a man, about a project we were working on. He said he didn't trust the way the coworker talked to me. He made me promise to never speak to him again outside of work emails. I told myself I'd give it time. By the end of the second year, I'd lost touch with Devi and Carla. I'd quit going to brunch. I'd stopped calling my mom on Sundays because Tobin said she was a bad influence. I'd switched jobs to one where I worked from home because Tobin felt better when he knew exactly where I was. I'd gained 12 pounds because I stopped going to the gym. I'd started taking medication for anxiety I'd never had before. The night I left him, I waited until he flew out for a sales conference in Phoenix. I packed 2 suitcases and my laptop. I left my furniture, my books, the framed photos on the wall, the dog he'd convinced me to adopt with him. I drove for 6 hours straight to a motel in the mountains. I cried for 3 days. Then I rebuilt. I found the house in Asheville. I reconnected with Devi and Carla, who forgave me without even making me apologize. I started calling my mom every Sunday again. I changed my phone number. I deleted every social media account I'd ever had. I told no one where I was living except my mother and my 2 best friends. For 11 months, I thought I was free. "He found me," I said to Ruben. The words felt strange in my mouth. I don't know how, but he found me. Ruben nodded slowly. "What's in that box, ma'am?" He didn't pay me $200 to deliver flowers. I looked at the box on my coffee table through the kitchen doorway. It looked so small, so harmless. "I don't know," I said, "but I think he wants me to find out." There was a knock at the door. Ruben and I both froze. The knock came again. 3 sharp raps, then a voice. "Ma'am, this is the Asheville Police Department. We received a call from a delivery driver about a suspicious package. Can you open the door, please?" I let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. Ruben got up first and went to the door. He looked through the peephole, then nodded at me. "It's them," he said. I opened the door. 2 officers stood on my porch, a woman and a man. The woman was older, maybe 50, with short gray hair and tired eyes. The man was younger, tall, with a nervous energy about him. "I'm Officer Caldera," the woman said. "This is Officer Pruitt. We got a call about a package. Are you Marin Holloway?" "Yes." "Can we come in?" I stepped aside. The 4 of us stood in my living room, looking at the small brown box on the coffee table. Officer Caldera walked over to it slowly. She didn't touch it. She just looked at it from every angle, like she was reading it. "Ma'am," she said, "has anything else strange happened recently? Phone calls, emails, anything that didn't add up?" I thought about it, really thought about it, and as I did, the past month started to look different. There was the day my electricity had gone out for 2 hours, and the power company said there was no record of an outage on my street. There was the morning I'd come downstairs and noticed my back door was unlocked, even though I was sure I'd locked it the night before. There was the package of takeout food I'd ordered for dinner one night, where the bag was sitting on my porch, but the food was missing, like someone had taken it before I opened the door. I'd called the restaurant, and they'd refunded me without question. I'd told myself a teenager had stolen it as a prank. There was the man at the grocery store last Saturday who had stood 3 feet behind me in the checkout line and stared at the back of my head for so long that the cashier had asked me if I knew him. There was the dream I'd had 4 nights ago, where I'd woken up at 3 a.m., convinced someone had been standing in my bedroom doorway, watching me sleep. I told the officers everything. Officer Caldera wrote it all down. Officer Pruitt put on a pair of latex gloves and very carefully picked up the box. He took it outside, to a black case in the back of their patrol car. He came back 5 minutes later. "There's a camera," he said, "and a tracker, and a small canister." "What's in the canister?" I asked. "We don't know yet. We need a specialist to come out. But it doesn't matter, because none of it activated. You did exactly the right thing by not opening it." He looked at Ruben. "You probably saved her life today." Ruben didn't say anything. He just sat down on my couch and put his face in his hands. I want to take a quick break here to remind you that this story you're hearing right now actually happened. I'm not making it up to scare you. The reason I'm telling it is because someone watching this video right now is in a situation that feels off, and they're ignoring it because they don't want to be wrong. I'm here to tell you, please don't ignore it. Trust the part of your brain that's quietly screaming at you. If this story has reached you for a reason, take it as that reason. The next 48 hours were a blur of phone calls and statements and people coming in and out of my house. Officer Caldera called the FBI. The FBI called a stalking crime specialist out of Charlotte who drove 3 hours to interview me. The canister in the box turned out to contain a chemical compound used in industrial pest control. In a small enclosed space, like the inside of a house with all the windows closed, it would have caused severe respiratory failure within 10 to 15 minutes. The camera was meant to record what happened. The tracker was meant to confirm I was at home. Tobin had been planning this for months. The investigators traced the package back to a shipping account he'd opened under a fake name. They traced the gray sedan back to a rental car company in Charlotte. They traced his phone to a motel 6 miles from my house. He'd been staying there for 2 weeks. He'd been watching my house. He'd been the man at the grocery store. He'd been the figure in my bedroom doorway in the middle of the night, the one I'd convinced myself was a dream. He had a key to my back door. They found it on him when they arrested him at the motel that same afternoon. He'd had a copy made from the spare key I'd given him in our old apartment. The same key I'd forgotten to ask for back when I left. He'd been inside my house 12 times in the past month. They knew because he'd left a small device in my bedroom, hidden behind the headboard of my bed. It had been recording audio for 30 days. When the officer told me about the device, I had to sit down on the kitchen floor. I think I stayed there for an hour. Ruben sat with me. He'd ended up staying through the whole thing. He'd called his supervisor and said he wasn't coming back to work that day. His supervisor had told him to take the rest of the week off. I don't know how to describe the feeling of finding out that someone has been listening to you sleep, listening to you cry, listening to you talk to your mother on the phone for 30 days, and you didn't know. There isn't a word for it. The closest thing I can compare it to is the feeling of finding out the floor underneath you isn't really there, and you've been walking on air, and now you're falling. Tobin pleaded not guilty. The trial took 8 months. He was convicted on charges of stalking, breaking and entering, illegal surveillance, and attempted murder. He's currently serving a sentence that means he won't be eligible for parole until he's in his 60s. I moved out of that house 2 weeks after the arrest. I couldn't sleep there anymore. I rented an apartment in a building with a doorman, a security camera in the lobby, and a deadbolt on every door. I had the locks changed twice. I bought a dog. a small, loud one named Pepper who barks at every noise. I stayed in touch with Reuben. He came to the trial. He testified. The prosecutor told me later that his testimony was one of the things that made the case unshakable. He told the jury about the man in the parking lot, the $200, the laugh that wasn't right. He looked at Tobin when he said it. Tobin looked back at him with the same flat eyes I'd seen across a dinner table for 2 years and never recognized for what they were. I asked Reuben once why he did it, why he stayed on my porch, why he didn't just drop the package and drive away. He thought about it for a long time before he answered. "My sister was in a relationship like that," he said. 20 years ago. Her boyfriend killed her. I was the one who found her. I promised myself that if I ever got a chance to stop something like that from happening to somebody else, I would stop it. I didn't know if I was right that morning. I just had a feeling. And I'd rather lose my job for being wrong 100 times than live with being right and doing nothing. I think about that a lot. About how the worst thing that ever happened in his life turned him into the kind of person who saved mine. About how a stranger's pain, 20 years old, became the reason I'm still here. There's a book by a man named Gavin de Becker called The Gift of Fear. I read it during the months I was waiting for the trial. The whole book is built around one idea, that the small, uncomfortable feeling we get when something is wrong is not weakness, not paranoia, not overreaction. It's the most sophisticated alarm system ever built, and it lives inside every one of us. We're just trained from the time we're little girls to override it, to be polite, to not make a scene, to not hurt anyone's feelings, to give people the benefit of the doubt. I'd given Tobin the benefit of the doubt for 2 years. I'd overridden every alarm my body tried to ring. The day he sat in my dark apartment waiting for me, the day he read my messages, the day my friends slowly stopped calling because he made them feel unwelcome, every single one of those was a warning, and I silenced every single one. Reuben didn't silence his. He felt something wrong in a parking lot at 5 in the morning, and instead of pocketing $200 and forgetting about it, he listened. That listening saved my life. If something in this story made you think of someone you love, send them this video. Don't say why. Just send it. Maybe they need to hear it. Maybe they're already hearing the bars being built, and they don't have a name for the sound yet. And if you're the one feeling something wrong right now, in your own life, in your own body, please listen to it. That feeling is older than you. It's smarter than you. It's been keeping people alive since long before any of us knew what danger looked like. Don't override it. Don't talk yourself out of it. Don't be polite about it. Your gut is trying to tell you something, and you owe it the courtesy of listening. Tell me in the comments, if you're comfortable, what was the moment you trusted your gut and were glad you did? I read every single one. You'd be surprised how often someone else's story is the thing that finally gives a stranger the courage to leave.